up from your telescope. Take me on this journey home. I don't wanna wait no more. Lay me down behind the moon. Tell me you'll be on real soon. I don't wanna wait no more.
Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. So today I have another comparison video for you guys. I will be looking at the regular iPad versus the iPad Pro. Alright, so obviously these two devices are not directly comparable because this regular iPad costs $329 at the base price, while the iPad Pro, the 11-inch version, costs $799 at the base price, and the 12.9-inch costs $999 at the base price. So the real question is the iPad Pro worth more than 2 times the cost of this regular iPad? In today's video, I'm going to be looking at the specific aspects of each iPad so that I can give you guys a good idea of the features of each iPad and hopefully be able to help you make a decision on whether you should just get the regular iPad or you should kind of like bite the bullet and get the iPad Pro. So I will be looking at the physical shape / size, the screen, the Apple Pencil support, how the pencil feels, the camera, and the keyboard. In particular, the two devices that I have right here are the 6th generation iPad and the 2018 version of the 11-inch iPad Pro. I started off using the regular iPad. I used it for about a year, and then I switched over to the iPad Pro, and I have been using it since. So as of now, I think I've been using this device for 7 months, and of course I'm still using it. Okay, and a little quick disclaimer before I start. So I know that these two devices are not the newest generation for their model. For the regular iPad, this one is the 6th generation, but there's a newer 7th generation. And for the iPad Pro, the new 2020 version just came out. However, I did go on the Apple website and looked at the newest models in comparison to these two models. And really, I would say there isn't a significant change. And that's why I think that this video comparing these two models is still very relevant. And whatever the results are, I think those can be applied to the newest generation as well. Okay, and let's just get started. And right off the bat, I'm going to say that this question isn't a question of power, but really a question of how it feels to use the iPad. So first, let's talk about these two iPads physically. The regular iPad only comes in one size. The 6th generation came in 9.7 inches. I think the 7th generation is a bit bigger at 10.2 inches. And for the iPad Pro, it does come in 2 different sizes, the 11-inch one, which is this one, and the bigger 12.9-inch one. So obviously, in terms of writing on the screen or watching a video or reading a book, having a bigger screen is nicer. However, I don't find that the 9.7 screen feels too small or anything. I did use this device for a full year, writing a lot of notes on it, and I never felt that the screen felt too small for what I needed. So really, I think a 9.7-inch screen is just fine. Now, as for the shape, so the regular iPad has like a very old school shape. It has rounded edges and pretty thick bezels, especially in the top and bottom, while the iPad Pro has squared off edges and also much thinner bezels. Although I would say that the bezels on the iPad Pro can definitely be smaller. So overall, the iPad Pro looks a lot sleeker than the iPad. It looks like a brand new modern device because the design of it changed drastically from older generation iPads, while for the regular iPad, the design of it really didn't change that much. It pretty much looks the same as all of the iPads that came before it. Okay, and now let's talk about the screen. So the iPad Pro screen honestly is just so much better by a very noticeable margin too. But the iPad screen isn't bad either. I would say it is pretty okay. It does have a Retina display. It's just that the iPad Pro screen is very good and it has a liquid Retina display. Alright, so now I'm just going to highlight some features that the iPad Pro has that the iPad doesn't. So the first feature that I'm going to highlight is that the iPad Pro screen is fully laminated. And this is very important in terms of how it feels to write on the screen. With a fully laminated screen, when I'm writing on the iPad Pro, it feels like I'm writing directly on the screen. So it feels pretty natural. It definitely still feels like writing on glass, but because the screen and the glass are like one, it feels like I'm writing directly on the screen. And for the iPad, there is a pretty noticeable gap between the screen and the glass in front of it. when I'm writing on the iPad, instead of feeling like I'm writing on the screen directly, it more so feels like I'm writing on a piece of glass that is in front of the screen. So it doesn't feel as natural, so therefore it doesn't feel as nice to write on the iPad than on the iPad Pro. And the second feature that I'm going to highlight is that the iPad Pro screen is anti-reflective. This is super important if you're going to be using this iPad underneath bright lights, so basically any classroom or lecture hall. The regular iPad doesn't have the anti-reflective screen, so before I got the matte screen protector for my iPad, I found it very annoyingly reflective when I was trying to use it in a classroom because all I can see was the reflection of the ceiling lights above, and that's actually why I decided to get the matte screen protector. The screen protector did solve the reflection problem, however it also decreases the display's quality, so it's kind of like give and take here. But for the iPad Pro, I used it a lot in lecture halls and classrooms with bright ceiling lights, and I never found the ceiling lights annoyingly reflective in the screen. Of course, I could still see the ceiling lights in the screen, but I was able to easily ignore it. So yeah, the anti-reflective feature of the iPad Pro screen is definitely one that I appreciate a lot. Okay, and two more features that I'm going to highlight are that the iPad Pro has a wide color display and True Tone, and I'm just going to read to you guys a definition that I found online about these two things because I really cannot explain what they are well in my own words. So the wide color display allows your app to display richer, more vibrant, and lifelike colors than ever before. And as for the True Tone, it measures the ambient light color and brightness, and then the device uses this information to automatically adjust the display. So basically on the iPad Pro, you see better colors than on the iPad. So one last thing that I'm going to say about the screen before I move on to discuss the next topic is that I think that the screen should probably be the most important point of consideration when you're making a decision between getting the regular iPad or getting the iPad Pro, because you are going to be looking at your screen a lot, and if you're planning on writing on your iPad, then you're going to be interacting with the screen too. And that's why I think that the screen quality of both iPads should be a key point in your consideration. Okay, and now let's move on to discuss how the iPad runs and also the pencil support. So the iPad Pro has something called ProMotion, which the iPad doesn't have. And ProMotion basically allows the iPad Pro to run very smooth. So I'm going to read another definition from online that I found. ProMotion is a new display technology that delivers refresh rates of up to 120 Hz for fluid scrolling, greater responsiveness, and smoother motion content. And with ProMotion, the Apple Pencil is even more responsive with an industry best 20 millisecond latency for even more fluid and natural drawing. Alright, so I know that probably didn't make too much sense to you guys, so I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like right now. So in terms of Apple Pencil responsiveness and also the overall smoothness of changing through apps, scrolling through a web page, the iPad Pro runs noticeably more smooth than the iPad. However, with that being said, the iPad doesn't perform badly or anything. It definitely doesn't feel laggy. And overall, the performance of the Apple Pencil is pretty good. It's just that the performance of the regular iPad isn't like amazing, whereas for the iPad Pro, it performs super well, and I can say that it runs smooth like butter. All right, and next let's talk about how the pencil feels. So the iPad Pro uses the second generation Apple Pencil while the iPad uses the first generation Apple Pencil. The key difference between these two are that the second generation Apple Pencil has a flat edge while the first generation is completely round, and also the second generation Apple Pencil can attach to your iPad magnetically like this. It just snaps right on, and it also charges this way too, and the magnet is also very strong, so it definitely will not fall off easily, and that makes it super easy to carry around the Apple Pencil like this. Now for the first generation Apple Pencil, it charges like this, so you do have to plug it in right here. You definitely cannot carry it around like this. It'll probably just fall off every time you bump into anything. So the way that I carry it around my Apple Pencil was with a case. The Apple Pencil went right here, but if you don't want to get a case for your iPad, then there really is no easy way to carry both of these around. You're just going to have to put both of these in your backpack or something. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about how these two pencils feel. I would say the flat edge makes the Apple Pencil feel a lot nicer to hold and also a lot easier to hold too, because with how round the first generation Apple Pencil is, I find it a little bit almost like slippery to hold, so it's definitely harder to hold and it also doesn't feel as nice. However, I'm really fine with both. I don't think that the pencil should be a make it or break it factor. Both of these feel fine to use, and of course you can always get silicone covers to make it more comfortable and easier to hold. And one more thing that I forgot to mention is that the second generation Apple Pencil does have a functionality, and it is that you can double tap to change from a pen or pencil to an eraser and vice versa. I do find that this functionality is pretty useful, especially when I'm writing notes pretty fast. If I make a mistake, then I can just double tap and quickly erase, whereas for this one I would have to like move, go change the eraser, erase it, and then move again, change it back. So the double tap functionality is pretty nice. Alright, and next let's talk about the camera. So the iPad Pro does have a better camera than the regular iPad. However, for me this factor really isn't significant because I don't really take any pictures with my iPad unless it's like I'm trying to take a picture of a board or a picture of a document to put into my notes. And in that case, the iPad's camera is more than sufficient for that. You can definitely capture all of the details on the whiteboard or the details in the document. So really the quality of the camera doesn't matter too much for me. Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about the keyboard for these two devices. Now, I didn't get a keyboard for either device, but I do know that many people do, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. So the regular iPad is only compatible with the smart keyboard. Of course, there are many other third-party Bluetooth keyboards that you can also use with either iPad, but for this video, I'm just going to be focusing on the official keyboards for the iPads. I actually did consider getting a smart keyboard when I first bought this device, but I went to test it out in store, and honestly, that keyboard is not good at all. Like, it feels pretty bad to type on. I definitely wouldn't want to type on it for a long time or type on it at all, and that's why I just decided to not get it. But unfortunately, the smart keyboard is the only official keyboard that is compatible with this device. If you don't like the smart keyboard but still want to get a keyboard for your iPad, you can definitely look into third-party Bluetooth keyboards, and I'm sure there are many that feel nicer than the smart keyboard. Now let's talk about the iPad Pro. So the iPad Pro is compatible with the smart keyboard and also the newly released Magic Keyboard. I did not get a chance to test out the Magic Keyboard in store. However, I've heard that the iPad's Magic Keyboard is pretty similar to the MacBook's Magic Keyboard, and I do have a MacBook right here, and I can attest to you guys that the Magic Keyboard is very, very, very nice. It is the nicest keyboard that I've ever felt ever in my life. I love typing on it. It just sounds and feels so good to type on. So if the iPad's Magic Keyboard really is just like the Magic Keyboard for the MacBooks, then I will tell you guys that it is a very high quality keyboard. It also comes with a trackpad, so if you're going to use your iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard, then you can actually kind of like transform your iPad Pro into a computer, which I think is pretty cool. But then again, the Magic Keyboard is also, I think, like $400 or something like that, so also up there in price. Alright, so yeah, those are the keyboards for each iPad. Again, even though there are only 2 official choices, you can definitely look into third-party choices. Alright, so in summary, I would say the iPad can definitely get the job done if you want to draw, if you want to take notes, if you want to watch videos, if you want to read articles, papers, books, whatever, you can do all of that on the iPad just fine. The iPad can handle all of those tasks easily, and it definitely wouldn't feel bad to use the iPad. Now, for the iPad Pro, I would say the iPad Pro gets the job done very well. It has a better screen to write on or to draw on. It has a better color display, so videos and photos will look a lot nicer on the iPad Pro screen than on the iPad screen, and overall it's just a better screen to look at. It also has a super fast refresh rate that makes the iPad run super smooth. So again, like I said in the beginning, the question of iPad versus iPad Pro really is a question of how it feels. Whatever the iPad Pro can do, the iPad can also do, but the task just feels nicer to do on the iPad Pro than on the iPad. And that's why for me, I think that if you're going to be using your iPad a lot, then it may be worth it to get the more expensive iPad Pro. If you're not going to use your iPad that much, just maybe like write a few notes on it here and there, or like watch a few videos on it here and there, then I would say probably just get the regular iPad. The iPad is definitely a very good device for what it costs. Again, this iPad costs less than half of the price of the iPad Pro. So yeah, those are all of the comparisons. Hopefully knowing all of this will help you make a decision as to whether you should get the regular iPad or the iPad Pro. Okay, so that is the end of this video. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching until the end. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel down below. I am planning on making a lot more vlogs and tech related content, so yeah, be sure to stay tuned for that, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Bye!